Hi, everybody. This is Anne Goldberg with Temple Adath Or, TAO. We are a community of light serving South Florida, Dade, Palm Beach, and Broward counties. And thank you so much for being here. I am very excited to interview this evening's guest, Bari&RIckAlovis. Welcome to you both. It's really such a pleasure to have you here. And before I go any further, let's start with Bari. Where were you born?
First of all, thank you for inviting us, and it's a pleasure to be here too. And I was born in Flushing, New York.
Okay.
And my parents lived in Lefrak City for a short period of time, and then built a home in Manhasset, Long Island, where I grew up and spent 20-something years.
Okay, so you're a Long Island girl.
I am a Long Island girl.
I'm a Brooklyn girl. I grew up in Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn. How about you, Rick? Where were you?
I'm an island boy, Coney Island.
Coney Island. Okay, so you were much closer to me. Whereabouts?
I was near you. Sheepshead Bay. Like we'd go to Lundy's. Yeah, I grew up in Seagate at the end of Coney Island.
Oh, we know Seagate.
You know Seagate. Seagate was a great place to grow up, and
yes.
And I lived there until I was 13, and then my parents moved to Miami Beach, and then we would kind of go back and forth. We'd go to New York for the summers. So I got
nice. Very nice. So you got to experience New York as a kid, especially that part of Coney Island was very beautiful. We have a patron member, Ethelind Wiener, who's from Seagate, and her family was there for decades. She grew up there and lived there as an adult for a while. So I know the community. It's beautiful. It's a very small town.
It's small, so I bet you if I speak to that member, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of connections.
Oh, 100%.
Not that big.
So tell us a little bit, Rick, about what your growing up was like. What was your family life like?
Well, I'm one of four, and my dad, may rest in peace, was an optician, so I followed in his footsteps. And we had, just a wonderful childhood in Brooklyn. A lot of kids. I mean, where you lived in Sheepshead Bay was probably similar. I mean, we're just kids everywhere. The summers were awesome. My brothers are 7 years older than me, and my sister is 9 years older than me. So
you were the baby.
So I was the baby, and it was really, it came in really handy, that I had older siblings who everybody kind of knew. So it made it really easy for me to, make friends, and there were a lot of big families there. And, we had a synagogue in Seagate, Knesset Israel, and while we were never religious growing up, that synagogue was a little bit of a glue for the neighborhood. So I always had a positive feeling about, synagogue communities, from that, and going to Hebrew school with my buddies, and the rabbi looking for us and wondering where we were. We were in the backyard, but things like that.
Gives you warm and fuzzies, the whole thing. Yeah, nice. I remember. Really I remember fireworks every Tuesday night in Coney Island. Remember? Wasn't that great?
Boardwalk.
Yeah. One of the perks of growing up in that part of Brooklyn. So, Bari, tell us about your life as a kid.
Well, I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly not Jewish. And so we were one of the few Jewish families. I always felt like I was very different and didn't quite fit in. We had a beautiful home. We were one of the few homes that had a pool in the backyard. So in the summer times, everybody
that
come
was
over
very...
to our home. We always had a party. We always had there was always something happening at our house. My parents gave us everything that we could want and more. Summertime, we went to summer camp. we went on vacations to the Catskills and Florida and
All the Jewish hotspots.
all the Jewish hotspots. The Jewish holidays were, let's go to grandma's, my mother's mother, Grandma Ray, and she would cook a feast for, 50 people in her small little house. And her kitchen was it's smaller than my bathroom right now. And the meals that would come out of that kitchen, people would line up for seconds. I mean, it was just, those are the memories I had.
Nice.
I did come home from summer camp one day and say to my parents, because at summer camp there were lots of Jewish people, and I said, Mom, I want to be bat mitzvahed.
Oh.
Because up until that point, it was, nobody asked me if that was something I wanted, and we didn't belong to a temple. And I got bat mitzvahed. My two other sisters, I am the oldest of 3 girls. My 2 other sisters did not choose to go that route. So I always had this kind of affinity for the Jewish traditions, just the being Jewish. That was always something that that was on my heart. And I remember my grandmother saying, she was going to go to Israel and she wanted me to go with her. And it didn't happen where I went with her at that particular time, but I'll tell you a little bit later when you ask me other questions, how that came to fruition.
Okay. Well, to keep it going, what do you think in your life, from maybe spawned from that childhood, what do you think has served you the best? Talent, intelligence, education, or persistence?
I would say persistence for me. It's not that I don't feel that I didn't have a great education, because I did. I went to Manhasset High and Ithaca College. It's not that I don't think I have talents, because I do. And it's not that I don't think I'm intelligent, because I think I am. But I haven't had an easy road. And it's my persistence, my discipline, my faith in something greater than me has definitely been the most important aspect of my life. And relying on my faith to overcome certain obstacles. If I didn't have that and I didn't have the persistence, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Right, right. Faith plays a big role. I know in my life too. I relate to that a lot. Okay, Rick, top that.
Yeah,
that's a pretty darn good answer.
Yeah, that's good. And
So-
good question too.
So here's your choices again, just in case.
Yeah, let me hear
Talent.
that one more time.
Talent, intelligence, education, or persistence? Or maybe something else that I haven't mentioned.
Well, I would say persistence. I'd say persistence, because whatever successes I have didn't really come easily. And I always had to get up and push through again and not get knocked down. And I would get advice that sometimes, would say, don't do things. And I would just keep pushing through. So I think in the long run, that's always paid off for me, that kind of tenacity of coming back. I even said to a client recently, I said, why did you give me the work when there were so many bigger companies? He goes, because I figured if you were as persistent with my customers as you were trying to get my work, then you'd be a good bet. And now it's 6 years later, and they're still using me. So persistence.
That's a great story.
Yeah. So I would go with persistence. I've been blessed in other areas too, but really persistence, just not getting knocked down without getting.
Right. Just get up, brush off, get up, do it again. I understand. So, Barry, what do you do during the day? Do you work? Do you have a profession, an avocation? How do you spend your time?
So when I'm not spending my time with my wonderful husband, and our pack of animals. We have currently 3 dogs and a kitty.
Oh.
And I would love to expand on that, but I don't think my husband would stay married to me. When I'm not in that mode, I do have a career. I currently work for the American Friends of the Hebrew University, and I'm the director of governance, and I love my job. I love what I do.
Director of governance?
Governance.
Mm-hmm.
Governance, director of governance. So what I do is I oversee all of our boards and committees and make sure that we're complying with bylaws, and I'm in direct contact with our board members and committee members. Basically, I oversee board relations, I plan board meetings, I plan events, fundraising events. And the best part is, and this is the part I was going to say, segue into from before, is that because I work for the American Friends of Hebrew University, I get to go to Israel once a year.
Oh,
And
wow, best perk ever.
I know. And I did not plan this. This is one of the ways that my God is so good to me. And I got to go to Israel for the first time in 2014, and I invited my boyfriend at the time to go with me, and we've been back since several times. So I spend a good almost 10 days there a year, and I plan events, and I have a whole Hebrew University family that are near and dear to me. Well, far and dear to me.
Wonderful. What a charmed life. Really. That's just great. How have the current events affected what you do? Will you be going to Israel anytime soon?
Because of the pandemic, we did not get to go in June as we originally planned. We were hoping to go in October, and we postponed it to the following May. God willing, we will be back in Israel next May.
Right.
And so we've been pretty much remote since March as an organization. So I'm working right out of my kitchen and surrounded by my pack of animals.
The dogs are so happy, right? The cat, the dog, they're all so happy. Mommy's home.
And the mommy's happy too.
And now, okay, over to you, Rick. Tell me, what is or was your profession?
Well, I'm a licensed optician. I come from a family of opticians, so that seemed to be a natural thing to go into. And I went into partnership with my brothers, and we opened up a series of optical stores in New York City. And I did that for many years. We also had mail order contact lenses when we used to do mail order, but then it became the internet. So I was in the optical industry. Mm-hmm. When I moved to Florida, I really stopped practicing optical, and I had a part of the business that we used to do customer service for our own customers, mm-hmm. and offered that service out to some other corporations, and some of the newspapers and magazines hired us. So I started really working that industry, and now I've been doing that for about 15 years or so.
I can see why persistence is what you chose, because to come to Florida and create a success from nothing requires all of the above: talent, intelligence, education, if not in a school, definitely, in the world, and certainly
and a little bit of luck.
Absolutely. Okay. So this one's for you, Barry, and I think this is where you're going to talk about your grandmother. Who or what has informed who you are today? Who or what influences you currently?
So my parents, of course, have had a huge impact on me, shaping me. They always provided me with everything I ever wanted, and a foundation. My grandmother was when I think about my grandmother loved family. She loved being with family. She loved cooking for family. She just was represented unlimited, unconditional love. So that's kind of who shaped me, but who currently has, I think the question is, who influences me? I would say that two people have had the most influence over the kind of person that I aspire to be. One is my sister Bonnie, who is the next sister in line. A lot of times I felt like she was the older sister. She was very disciplined, and when she focused on something, she followed it through. She went to, she was a track scholarship winner, great in track. Got a scholarship to Georgetown, then went on to become a lawyer. And and that was not my trajectory. That was not my path. I had a lot of detours, and so she always represented somebody that was solid, grounded, and what I eventually wanted to be, that kind of person, that member of society, somebody that had a career, that was focused and disciplined. And on the other side is my boss, Beth McCoy. I met Beth when I started working for American Friends, and she has become my mentor, not just my boss. In fact, she hates when I call her that, and a friend. And she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And she's just given me the opportunity to really grow in professionally and as a person. I've watched her give in a philanthropic way, and that is the business that I'm in. The organization that I'm in is all about philanthropy, and she really just taught me about what it's like to give and to help this society, this world that we're in, and be a part of the solution. So that's my answer.
Beautiful, beautiful, and very, very much in keeping with Jewish tradition. You know, how can I make the world better? How can I leave it better? It's a beautiful thing. So, Rick, what can you share from your life's lessons about navigating these times that might inspire people who are watching?
Well, I think it's, first of all, I think it's important to have faith and to have a connection with God and try to nurture it. I know that's definitely made my life, work. Knowing that, I have a higher power, and that I can, wherever I am, I don't have to be in synagogue. I could be at the beach, I could be in my backyard having a cup of coffee, and I could just stop for a minute and really, talk to my higher power and say, give me an idea here. What am I supposed to do? Or maybe I'm supposed to do nothing, maybe I'm supposed to just back off and let other people figure it out and not get involved. So having that connection with a higher power is really, vital to me. Giving people the latitude, live and let live. Let people do their thing. I don't have to get involved, unless asked. And it makes me able to focus. I do a lot of spiritual readings, and it grounds me in a way that I can go to work in the day, and have a game plan how to handle things as they come up. So that's all really important. And that's, you know, that's where, you know, Tao fits in. And, you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, about the synagogue, you know, keeping those connections, and it grounds me in a way that I can operate.
Keeping connections, right? Keeping connections. That's
Yeah.
it. That's, you know, I make a study of the people who live the longest in the world, and really people who maintain strong connections with loved ones, whether family or friends. That's the juice of life. That's really where it lives.
Right.
So how about you, Barry? Would you share with me what from your life's lessons you might share with people?
Life's lessons. I would say that life is a privilege, and growing older is a privilege, and that one of the things that I always assumed, and this happened right around my father's death, is I just assumed everybody would, my loved ones and close ones, dear ones, would just be around me for a long time. And when my father was taken from me suddenly, or taken from us suddenly, it made me realize how precious life is. That we all just have one day at a time, and it's really a gift to wake up. And as I get older, it's not a death sentence, it's actually a privilege.
Well, life is a death sentence. Let's face it. The one thing's going to happen when you're born is you're going to die. If you focus on that, you're going to have a really miserable life.
Exactly. So I choose to focus one day at a time, and, you know, how can I make lemonade out of my lemons? And especially during this pandemic, you know, I chose not to look at this like it was something terrible that happened to me. I think it's terrible that it's going on, and there's suffering, but that has not been my experience. For me, I've spent more time with this God of my understanding, more quiet, precious time in the morning, more time connecting to others via Zoom, more time present and being at home, less time being distracted by things that I used to busy myself up doing that just really don't matter. My life is really, really simple now, and I'm enjoying it.
I think that's the big lesson for most of the people that I've heard from, is the simplicity of this time. Yeah, maybe we miss going out and socializing, that's for sure. But there was a constant rush, I'm late. I was late all the time, no matter what I was doing, because so much was going on, or I was so distracted. So I really understand, and I think that's a beautiful sentiment to give to people. Yeah, absolutely. So have you been changed by the experience in any way, Barry?
I think that I am less attached to what I thought I needed to be happy. I am less attached to things out there, and more content with what I have right now. I don't even want for anything else. I have what I already want.
Beautiful. How about you, Rick? Have you been changed by this experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, you know, I went through waves. You know, at the beginning, I was in a little bit of denial about the whole thing. And then as the pandemic kind of spread and grew, it got kind of depressing for a little while. Mm-hmm. So I needed to adjust. And, you know, like that's saying, you know, this too shall pass. I needed to really, like, you know, take it one day at a time. This too shall pass, and work through it. And then I got to a good spot, you know, with it. I began to accept that, okay, I'm not going to be going into the office. Okay, you know, I'm going to have to readjust things, but so far, you know, I've adjusted pretty well, I think, and I'm in a pretty good place with it. So, you know, that just, you know, reinforces for me that, you know, just put one foot in front of the other, work through it, and you know, and keep your faith.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now I'm a lot like, you know, Barry said, content. You know, now I have this great sense of gratitude.
What drew you? This is our last question. What drew you to our community, and what did you enjoy most about Temple Adath Or?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, what drew me was Rabbi Mark. I was magnetized towards him and his energy and what he had to offer and teach me. And so over the years, I would see him once a year during Yom Kippur. And when I started dating Rick, he eventually started coming along with me, and he met Rabbi Mark. And so it was just a natural evolution. The more we were around him, the more we wanted to be a part of what he was offering.
He's
And
a Pied Piper. There's no question about it. We just follow along.
Yeah. So I'll admit I'm a Rabbi Mark groupie, and Rick at first was like, "Who is this Rabbi Mark?" And then he could understand why I was so nuts about him, and he fell in love with the services and just the energy, and that it's different, it's spiritual, it's not your normal temple. And
You're not your parents'
there's nothing normal
synagogue.
about me, so it would be fitting that I would want to be in something that was not your cookie cutter, you know, temple service. So we love the singing and the dancing and the clapping and just the community and the connection.
Wonderful, wonderful. What would you like to add to that, Rick? Anything?
Well, sure. Well, you know, the funny thing is, my only real connection with Rabbi Mark at the beginning were those phone calls that we would get, you know, to come to services, you know, good Shabbos.
Which we still get.
Which we still get. Anyway, you know, as we were discussing before the interview started, I'm involved with another synagogue myself. And I had a great community there and still do. When I came to Rabbi Mark's service, I saw a whole nother community and a whole nother, you know, aura. You know, he exudes a wonderful aura, and I really enjoyed it. And the timing was great because we only had services at the other synagogue like twice a month, and Rabbi Mark would come up to Del Rey usually a couple times a month. So it was working out really perfectly. And as I got to know him, and he's just a wonderful, you know, we were talking about how he exudes presence. Like when you're talking to him, you really feel like, you know, a connection, and that he's listening. And so I really enjoy the man, and I've enjoyed the services and the congregation, and even what you're doing here. I've watched a couple of these episodes, and you know, so I love the whole thing. And you know, so at some point we said, well, why can't we be members of both congregations? And that's what we did.
Yay. Well, I'm really glad that you did. I'm really delighted to get to know you both. You are charming and wonderful, and you both glow. And thank you for spending time with us. And I want to just say I am grateful for that, to have the opportunity to do this, and to do this on behalf of someone like Rabbi Mark. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks when my guest will be Sunny Arfa, and she leads Feel Great Meditate. It'll be a wonderful half hour, and thanks so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure.